Some vegetables didn't disappear because people stopped eating them. They disappeared because they fed people too well. Long before GMOs, supplements, or superfoods, medieval farmers grew plants so nutrient-dense they made much of today's produce feel thin by comparison. Not faster, not prettier, just deeper, more complete. So agriculture didn't really improve them. It moved away from them. They were reclassified, reframed as inefficient, labeled unscalable. And within a few generations, we forgot they were ever food at all. But they never truly left. They're still here, growing quietly, often underfoot. And once you recognize them, you'll never walk through a grocery store or your own backyard the same way again. 15. Purslane. Most people spray this plant with herbicide. They don't even look at it. They just call it a weed. That alone should make you pause. Purslane once appeared regularly on medieval dinner tables. Farmers encouraged it. Healers preserved it. Entire communities relied on it because it delivered something rare: dense nutrition with almost no demand on soil or labor. Purslane is one of the richest plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids known, not marginally higher, noticeably higher than most leafy greens. It also contains significant vitamin E and beta-carotene levels that rival modern staples like spinach and carrots. That combination alone would earn it a superfood label today. Yet purslane grows freely, reseeds itself, and thrives without fertilizer schedules or careful tending. Ancient Romans preserved it for winter. Traditional Chinese medicine used it to support wound healing and inflammation. Medieval farmers understood something modern systems don't reward: a plant that feeds people without constant intervention. Purslane grows low and spreads wide. It ignores rows. It resists control. You can't easily design machinery or predictable yields around something that refuses to behave. So, it wasn't removed loudly, it was redefined quietly. Food became weed, and weed became invisible. 14. Skirret used to be royal food, literally. Medieval kings prized it for its natural sweetness, almost candy-like, without the dental damage or blood sugar spikes that refined sugar would later introduce. It produces clusters of slender, crisp tubers, each one sweet, fibrous, and deeply nourishing. Skirret is rich in inulin, a prebiotic fiber that supports beneficial gut bacteria. Today, that compound is isolated, powdered, and sold at premium prices. Skirret delivered it whole, embedded in a real food. It thrives in cool climates. It tolerates frost. It doesn't collapse when the weather turns unpredictable. That resilience should have made it invaluable. Instead, it made it inconvenient. Skirret requires careful harvesting. Each root needs attention. Shapes vary. Sizes differ. That made it incompatible with machines designed for speed and uniformity. Sugar beets and cane replaced it not because they nourished better, but because they scaled faster. The irony is sharp. We traded a root that supported digestion for one that strained it. 13. Salsify. Salsify tastes faintly like the sea. That alone made it memorable. Medieval cooks valued this long, pale root for its distinctive flavor, something between oyster and parsnip. No seasoning required, no imitation possible. But salsify takes time, 8 to 9 months to mature. That patience became a liability. Modern agriculture rewards speed, uniform growth, and durability under transport. Salsify grows slowly and bruises easily. In return, it offers fiber, potassium, and prebiotics that support long-term digestive health. Medieval households roasted it, stewed it, fried it. Wealthy kitchens treated it as refined fare. Poorer families relied on it during lean seasons because it was dependable. When efficiency became the dominant metric, salsify faded, Not because it failed, but because it refused to hurry. 12. Alexander's. Before celery became pale and watery, there was Alexander's. The Romans prized it. Medieval households depended on it. Every part of the plant was edible. Roots, stems, leaves, seeds. Its flavour was bolder than celery. Peppery, aromatic, medicinal. Alexander's contains compounds like astragaline, associated with anti-inflammatory and digestive support. Long before pharmacies, it served as both food and remedy. But Alexander's requires knowledge. Different parts must be harvested at different stages. The plant doesn't mature all at once. It rewards attention and timing, not neglect. That complexity didn't fit systems built around uniform harvests. Celery replaced it because celery behaved. Alexander's didn't. 11. Lovage. Lovage did too much. That was the issue. A single leaf delivers the flavour of several celery stalks. It supported digestion, reduced inflammation, and functioned as seasoning, vegetable, and medicine at once. Medieval. Families planted it once and harvested from it for years. Leaves, stems, roots, seeds. Everything had a use. Modern agriculture prefers specialization. One crop, one output, one predictable revenue stream. Lovage collapsed all of that into a single organism. You didn't need repeated seed purchases. You didn't need constant inputs. You didn't need multiple crops. So it quietly disappeared. From catalogues, from gardens, from memory. 10. Sea kale. Sea kale thrived where other plants struggled. Salt air, rocky soil, cold winds. Coastal medieval communities treated it as a gift. While inland farmers battled frost and exhaustion, sea kale stabilized soil and fed people at the same time. Nutritionally, it was exceptional. Sea kale is one of the stronger natural sources of vitamin C among leafy vegetables and contains iodine that supports thyroid function. Sailors relied on it to prevent scurvy long before citrus became common. Raw, it's crisp and faintly salty. Cooked, it softens into something between asparagus and spinach. So why didn't it spread? Because you can't force it inland. You can't mass produce it away from the coast. Modern farming favours crops that submit to relocation. Sea kale never did. By now, a pattern is forming. These plants weren't removed because they lacked value. They were sidelined because they resisted standardization. They grew at their own pace. They nourished broadly. They didn't fit cleanly into spreadsheets. And that tension only becomes clearer from here. 9. Good King Henry. Good King Henry sounds like a joke. It wasn't. This perennial green returned year after year without replanting. Families harvested leaves like spinach, shoots like asparagus, and used it medicinally for inflammation and wound care. One plant, multiple foods, minimal dependency. Its leaves are dense with iron and vitamin C, not flashy, not fast, but steady. Industrial systems favour turnover, seasonal replanting, predictable replacement. A plant that feeds families for decades doesn't align with that rhythm. So it was labelled outdated, then unnecessary, then forgotten. 8. Borage. Medieval people called borage the herb of gladness. They meant it literally. Borage contains gamma-linolenic acid, a fatty acid now extracted and sold as a supplement for inflammation, skin health, and mood support. Borage delivered it naturally. The leaves and bright blue, star-shaped flowers were edible, light, refreshing. Often added to drinks and salads meant to lift the spirit, and they did. But borage requires understanding. Its compounds depend on preparation and moderation. Medieval herbalists had that context. Industrial systems didn't. You can't easily standardize nuance, so borage was labeled risky. then sidelined, then replaced with capsules. 7. Sorrel tastes like lemon. That sharp, clean bite once defined medieval salads and soups. It wasn't just flavour. Sorrel delivered vitamin A levels that rivaled many common leafy greens of today, along with organic acids that stimulated digestion and appetite. More importantly, it survived winter. While other plants died back, sorrel kept growing. Its natural compounds helped preserve foods and extend freshness long before refrigeration existed. Medieval kitchens depended on that reliability. Modern systems didn't. Sorrel wilts quickly. It doesn't tolerate long transport. It doesn't survive weeks in storage. So it was replaced by blander greens bred for durability rather than nutrition. Freshness became a liability. Flavor became inconvenient. And from here on, the pattern shifts, because some plants weren't fragile at all. They were simply too complete. 6. Groundnut had the potential to change entire food systems. Indigenous American agriculture relied on it for centuries. This climbing vine produces protein-rich tubers with significantly more protein than potatoes and iron levels comparable to early meat alternatives. It also fixes nitrogen in the soil. That matters. Groundnut improved land instead of exhausting it. While many modern crops extract nutrients relentlessly, this plant rebuilt them. It tolerated drought, grew in poor soil, and required little external input. So why isn't it everywhere? Because it didn't cooperate. Groundnut climbs. It grows unevenly. It resists mechanized harvesting. Industrial agriculture favors crops that stay still and mature uniformly. Groundnut moved vertically, spread unpredictably, and refused simplification. So it was replaced by crops that shipped cleaner and stored longer, even if they fed people less completely. 5. Cardoon looks like artichoke's older, less polished sibling. Tall, thick-stemmed, unapologetic. Mediterranean farmers relied on it long before cholesterol had a name. Cardoon contains compounds now associated with supporting bile flow and maintaining healthy cholesterol levels, knowledge confirmed by modern analysis. 1 cup delivers nearly half the daily fiber requirement. That's not a side dish. That's structural nutrition. But cardoon demands judgment. It requires blanching, precise timing, careful harvesting. Large-scale production avoids crops that require human decision-making. Cardoon was replaced by vegetables bred to look consistent under fluorescent lights, not to do much once eaten. If cardoon was too demanding, the next plant was overlooked for being too gentle. 4. Rampion once filled medieval salad bowls. Mildly sweet, soft, comforting. It provided magnesium levels higher than many common greens, a mineral essential for muscle function, bone health, and nervous system balance. Medieval people didn't know the chemistry. They knew how it felt. Rampion grew slowly, quietly, reliably, and that steadiness worked against it. Lettuce replaced rampion because lettuce grew faster and photographed better. Rampion prioritized survival over appearance. You might recognize the name from Rapunzel. That wasn't accidental. Rampion was valuable enough to steal. Now it's rare enough to forget. Reset by this point, it's no longer about taste alone, or even nutrition. It's about what modern food systems reward, and what they quietly leave behind. Because the next plants weren't forgotten accidentally. They were renamed. 3. Angelica fed both kitchens and apothecaries. Medieval Europeans cultivated it for its towering stalks, aromatic seeds, and medicinal roots. It supported digestion, circulation, and respiratory health, often all from the same plant. Its flavor was strong, herbal, slightly bitter, not neutral, not subtle. Angelica required knowledge, different parts harvested at different times, different preparations for food versus medicine. Industrial systems replaced it with simplified flavorings and isolated compounds. Angelica wasn't eliminated because it lacked value, but because it bundled too many functions into one organism. Efficiency prefers separation. Angelica refused it. 2. Mallow mallow is where marshmallows got their name, the original kind. Before sugar, before gelatin. Medieval cooks used its root sap to soothe throats and calm inflamed stomachs. The leaves thickened soups that nourished and healed simultaneously. Its mucilage coats tissue, reducing irritation naturally. Today, it's often labelled invasive. That's another way of saying it thrives without assistance. Mallow grows in poor soil, survives neglect, appears during scarcity. Those traits once made it invaluable. Now they make it inconvenient, so it's pulled instead of harvested. 1. Chickweed. Chickweed grows everywhere. That abundance unsettles systems built on controlled supply. Within weeks it produces tender leaves rich in vitamin C, iron, and anti-inflammatory compounds. Medieval healers used it for wounds and joint pain. Sailors relied on it during long voyages. Families depended on it when other food failed. Today, it's removed on site. Not because it's useless, but because it asks for nothing. You can't build dependency around a plant that feeds people freely. You can't monetize nutrition that outruns invoices. Chickweed doesn't need permission. It doesn't need improvement. It doesn't need replacing. And maybe that's the real discomfort underneath all of this. Not that these plants disappeared, but that they never stopped offering what we decided to stop noticing.